The pill bottle was empty. Sarah stared at it, her hands shaking so hard the plastic rattled. She'd counted wrong. Miscalculated. The suppressants that kept her omega scent buried beneath layers of chemical neutrality, that let her pass as a common beta servant in the royal pack, were gone. And the Alpha King's coronation hunt started in 3 minutes. "Move it, Sarah," Jana hissed, shoving past her in the servants' corridor. "We're supposed to be lining the processional route. If head housekeeper finds you hiding." "I'm coming." The words came out steady, but Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. She shoved the empty bottle deep into her apron pocket and followed Jana toward the ceremonial grounds, calculating. The last pill had been 36 hours ago. The suppressants usually lasted 48 hours before starting to fade. That gave her 12 hours, maybe less with the stress of today's festivities. She could make it. She had to make it. The November sun hung low over the royal pack's territory, turning the autumn leaves to copper and gold. Hundreds of wolves lined the clearing where King Theron would lead the traditional hunt, a display of dominance, a promise of protection to his pack. Sarah kept her head down, slipping into her assigned position among the other servants. "Have you seen him yet?" Jana whispered, craning her neck. "They say he's even more brutal than his father. Cold as winter stone." Sarah had seen him. Everyone had. Theron Blackthorne had taken the crown 3 months ago after his father's sudden death, and the pack was still adjusting to their new king. He was massive, even for an alpha, broad-shouldered and dark-haired, with eyes like smoke and steel. Handsome in a harsh, unforgiving way. And dangerous. So dangerous. "They also say he killed his first mate," another servant murmured. 5 years ago. Found her dead in their chambers and never spoke of it again. "That's treason talk," Jana snapped. "He loved her. Everyone knows he swore never to take another omega after she died. Said no one could replace her." Sarah barely heard them. Her skin felt too tight, too hot. A strange prickling sensation crawled up her spine. "No. Not yet. Please, not yet." But she knew that feeling. The suppressants were failing faster than they should. Maybe because she'd been rationing them, stretching the doses too thin. Maybe because fear flooded her system with hormones that burned through the medication like fire through paper. The drums began. Deep, rhythmic, primal. King Theron emerged from the ceremonial lodge, and the crowd fell silent. He wore hunting leathers that emphasized every dangerous line of his body, his dark hair pulled back to reveal the sharp angles of his face. Power radiated from him in waves that made every wolf in the clearing lower their eyes in submission. Every wolf except Sarah. She was too busy trying not to panic as heat bloomed beneath her skin. As her carefully constructed walls began to crumble. As the scent she'd hidden for 6 years started to seep through her pores like honey, like spring flowers, like everything in Omega was designed to broadcast to potential mates. No, no, no. Theron's head turned. Slowly. Deliberately. His eyes found hers across 50 yards of packed earth and autumn leaves. The bond hit like lightning. Sarah felt it snap into place, that terrible, irrevocable recognition. Mate. The word echoed through her entire being, written into her DNA, undeniable and absolute. She saw the exact moment Theron felt it too. His eyes widened fractionally, then darkened to pure black as his wolf surged forward. Around them, wolves began to stir. Heads turning. Nostrils flaring. They smelled her. Omega, someone breathed. The word spread like wildfire through the crowd. Impossible. There were no unmated omegas in the royal pack. They were too rare, too valuable, too carefully guarded. Yet here one stood, her scent growing stronger with each passing second, calling to every dominant wolf within range. And the king who'd sworn never to take another omega mate, stared at her like she'd reached into his chest and squeezed his heart. "Seize her," Theron commanded. His voice was gravel and smoke. "Now." Royal guards moved instantly, but Sarah was already running. She'd learned to run 6 years ago when she'd fled her birth pack in the dead of night. When she'd escaped an arranged mating to a brutal alpha twice her age. When she'd chosen freedom over the fate her pack designed for her. She wouldn't stop running now. The forest swallowed her within seconds. Behind her, she heard shouts, snarls, the thunder of wolves giving chase. The ceremonial hunt had just found new prey. And the Alpha King was a hunter without equal. Sarah crashed through underbrush, her servant's uniform catching on thorns. Her lungs burned. Her Omega biology screamed at her to stop, to submit, to present herself to the king whose bond scent wrapped around her like chains. But she'd spent 6 years fighting her nature. She wasn't about to surrender now. A howl split the air, deep and commanding and furious. Theron had shifted. Sarah pushed harder, leaping over a fallen log, splashing through a creek. She had no plan beyond escape. No destination except away. Her suppressants were completely gone now, her scent a beacon that every predator within miles could follow. She never stood a chance. The massive black wolf hit her from the side, driving her into the soft earth beside the creek. Sarah rolled, trying to get her feet under her, but he was already there, enormous and dark as midnight, his teeth bared in warning. Don't run. The command came through the bond itself, bypassing her ears entirely. An Alpha's voice speaking directly to her Omega hindbrain. Please. The word tore from her throat. Please don't do this. Theron shifted in a ripple of power, crouching over her in human form. Up close, he was even more overwhelming, all raw strength and barely controlled fury. His hand locked around her throat, not squeezing, just holding. Claiming. You're mine, he said, and his voice held nothing but absolute conviction. The bond has chosen. You swore you'd never take another Omega. Sarah forced the words past her panic. You loved her. Your first mate. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or rage. That was before fate delivered you to my doorstep. I don't want this. I don't want you. Your sense says otherwise. He leaned closer, inhaling along the curve of her neck. You're terrified. But you want me. Your body knows what your mind refuses to accept. I reject this bond. The formal words came out desperate. I reject. His hand tightened fractionally. You don't get to reject me. I have a choice. No. The word was final. Ancient. Carved from stone and sealed with blood. You ran. You triggered the hunt. By pack law, you're mine by right of capture. Horror flooded through her. He was right. The ceremonial hunt held power beyond tradition, it was binding law. Any unmated wolf who ran became fair prey, and the alpha who caught them could claim them regardless of consent. She damned herself the moment her feet left the ceremonial grounds. Please, she tried again. You don't understand. I can't, I won't be claimed. I won't be owned. Then you shouldn't have hidden what you are. Theron's eyes bored into hers. You shouldn't have presented yourself at my coronation hunt. You shouldn't have run. He moved with brutal efficiency, hauling her up and pinning her against the nearest tree. Sarah fought, but it was like fighting stone. His strength was absolute. His intention unmovable. Don't, she begged. Please don't. But his mouth was already at her throat, finding the spot where neck met shoulder. The claiming mark. The bite that would bind them until death. I'm sorry, Theron whispered against her skin, and he almost sounded like he meant it. Then his teeth sank deep. Pain exploded through her, sharp and bright and all-consuming. But worse than the pain was the pleasure that followed, the bond snapping fully into place, wrapping around her soul like chains made of light. She felt him everywhere. In her blood, her bones, her breath. Mate. 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 When he finally released her, Sarah collapsed against the tree, her hand pressed to the bleeding wound. Theron caught her before she could fall, his expression unreadable. "It's done," he said quietly. "You're mine now. My mate. My queen." Sarah looked up at him through tears of rage and despair and unwanted desire. And suddenly, she knew that scent. The one woven through the bond, underneath the cedar and smoke and dominance. She'd smelled it before. 6 years ago. The night she'd fled her birth pack. When she'd hidden in the root cellar and watched through a crack in the floorboards as wolves in dark leather had torn through her pack's leadership. When she'd seen her arranged mate lying dead in a pool of blood. When she'd seen the massive alpha standing over the bodies, his fur matted with crimson. "You," she breathed. "You were there. The night I escaped. You killed them." Theron went absolutely still. "You destroyed my birth pack," Sarah continued, her voice shaking. "I saw you. Covered in blood. And now you've claimed me?" For a long moment, the Alpha King said nothing. Then his hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Yes," he said simply. "I destroyed them. Every Alpha who trafficked in unwilling mates. Every leader who sold Omegas like property." His eyes met hers, and they held something dark and complicated. "Including the one they'd promised you to." The world tilted sideways. "That was you," she whispered. "You came for, why?" "Because I'd already caught your scent." His voice dropped to something raw and honest. 6 years ago, I tracked you across 2 territories. Almost had you, but you vanished." His jaw tightened. "I've been searching ever since." Sarah's mind reeled. "That's impossible. The bond only snapped now." "The bond snapped the first time I scented you." Theron's hand slid to the fresh claim mark on her neck. "I just couldn't find you to complete it. You hid yourself well, little Omega. Too well." She stared at him. At this Alpha King who'd hunted her for 6 years. Who'd destroyed her abusive pack. Who'd sworn never to take another Omega mate, yet who claimed her anyway. "Your first mate," she said slowly. "The one who died. She was real?" "Yes." "And you loved her?" "Yes." "Then how can you do this to me?" The question broke on a sob. "How can you force a bond when you know what it means to lose it?" Theron's expression fractured. Just for a moment, she saw the man beneath the king. Grief and guilt and something desperate. "Because," he said quietly, "I didn't lose my first mate to death, Sarah. I lost her to the same pack that tried to sell you. And I've spent 6 years destroying every Alpha who profits from Omega's suffering." He pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. "I didn't force this bond. Fate did. I've just been waiting for it to catch up." The forest seemed to hold its breath around them. And Sarah realized that everything she thought she knew, about her escape, about the king, about fate itself, was built on lies. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. Sarah woke to silk sheets and morning light streaming through windows too tall, too elegant to belong anywhere she'd ever slept before. For one blissful moment, she didn't remember. Then the mating mark on her neck throbbed like a brand, and everything came crashing back. The hunt. The bond. Theron's teeth in her throat. "I've been searching for you for 6 years." She sat up too quickly, her head spinning. The room around her was massive, all dark wood and rich fabrics, with a fireplace large enough to stand in. The king's private chambers. She was in the king's bed. But she was alone. Sarah pressed her hand to the claiming mark, feeling the raised edges of Theron's bite. It was already healing, the way mate bonds accelerated everything. In a few days, it would be nothing but a silver scar. Permanent. Unbreakable. Property of the king. The door opened without warning. Sarah grabbed for the sheets, pulling them up to her chin, but it wasn't Theron who entered. It was a woman, tall and dark-haired like the king, with the same sharp features and those unsettling gray eyes. Good. You're awake. The woman moved with predatory grace, setting a tray of food on the bedside table. I'm Lyanna, the king's sister. Your new sister-in-law, I suppose, though that's a generous term for whatever this situation is. Sarah found her voice. Where is he? Theron? Dealing with the chaos you created. Lyanna settled into a chair by the fireplace, studying Sarah like she was an interesting specimen. Half the court is demanding to know where you came from. The other half is placing bets on how long you'll last. What? You're the king's second mate. Lyanna's tone was conversational, but her eyes were hard. The mate he swore he'd never take. The Omega who appeared out of nowhere at his coronation hunt. People have questions. Sarah pulled the sheets tighter. I didn't ask for any of this. No one asks for fate. Lyanna tilted her head. But you ran. That was interesting. Most Omegas would kill for a bond with an Alpha King. You bolted like he was trying to murder you. Maybe because he forced a claiming mark on me against my will? Yes, well. My brother has always had a talent for making spectacularly bad decisions when it comes to Omegas. Something bitter crossed Lyanna's face. You're not the first mate he's claimed without asking. Though you're the first one who survived it. The words landed like stones in still water. Sarah stared at her. What? But Lyanna was already standing, smoothing her skirts. Eat. Bathe. There are clothes in the wardrobe. Theron will summon you when he's ready to deal with you. She paused at the door. Oh, and don't bother trying to leave. There are guards posted at every exit. You're confined to the king's wing until he decides otherwise. I'm a prisoner. You're a queen. Lyanna's smile was sharp as broken glass. Though I suppose in this pack, there's not much difference. The door closed behind her with a decisive click. Sarah sat frozen for a long moment, her mind racing. Then she threw off the sheets and started searching the room. The wardrobe held gowns fit for royalty, rich fabrics in deep jewel tones, nothing like the plain servant's clothes she'd worn for 6 years. She ignored them, digging until she found something simpler. A soft gray dress that wouldn't draw attention. She needed to think. To plan. To figure out how to escape a bond that was supposedly unbreakable. The bathing chamber was attached to the bedroom, and Sarah washed quickly, avoiding her reflection in the polished mirrors. She didn't want to see the mating mark. Didn't want to confront the physical evidence of what Theron had done. I didn't force this bond. Fate did. Lies. All of it lies. Fate didn't hold her down against a tree. Fate didn't sink teeth into unwilling flesh. But even as anger burned through her, she felt the pull of the bond. That awful, traitorous part of her that wanted to find him. To be near him. To submit to the mate the universe had chosen. She hated it. Hated him. Hated herself for the small part of her that didn't. When she finally emerged from the bathing chamber, dressed and armored in false composure, she found the breakfast tray waiting. Her stomach growled despite everything. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. The food was rich, fresh bread, soft cheese, sliced fruit that must have cost a fortune this late in the season. Queen's food. She ate mechanically, tasting nothing. Then she went to the windows. They overlooked the royal gardens, 3 stories down. Too high to jump without breaking something important. The door was locked from the outside. She'd tried it twice already. The only other exit led to Theron's personal study, and she wasn't desperate enough to invade that space yet. So she was trapped. A bird in a gilded cage. The morning crawled past. No one came. Sarah paced the enormous room, studying every detail, looking for weaknesses. She found books, dozens of them, on everything from pack law to military strategy. She found weapons, decorative but functional, mounted on the walls. She found letters, tucked into a desk drawer, written in a feminine hand. My love. The baby moved again today. Strong, like his father. I think he'll be an alpha. I can feel it in my bones. Sarah dropped the letter like it burned her. Theron's first mate. The one who died pregnant. She shouldn't read more. It was private. Sacred. She read 3 more before guilt stopped her. The woman's name had been Elena. She'd loved Theron desperately, completely. The letters overflowed with it, plans for their future, dreams for their child, absolute faith in her mate. And then the letters stopped. The last one was dated 5 years ago. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Theron says I'm imagining things, but I know someone's watching me. Following me. Yesterday I found Wolf's Bane outside our chambers. Why would anyone? The letter ended mid-sentence. Sarah's hands shook as she returned it to the drawer. Wolf's Bane. A poison that could kill even the strongest wolf if administered correctly. And someone had left it outside the king's chambers, where his pregnant mate would find it. Murder, then. Not an accident. Not an attack by rival packs. Someone in this castle had killed Elena. The door opened so suddenly Sarah jumped. But it wasn't Theron this time either. It was Lyanna again, her expression grim. Get up. Marcus Thornridge is here. The name hit Sarah like a physical blow. Marcus. Her former alpha. The one Theron's pack had promised her to in an arranged mating. The one she'd seen lying dead in a pool of blood 6 years ago. That's impossible, Sarah breathed. He's dead. I saw. You saw him wounded. Lyanna's voice was flat. My brother's raid didn't kill everyone. Marcus survived. Rebuilt his pack. And now he's here, demanding an audience with the king. Her eyes locked on Sarah's. He's demanding you. Terror flooded through her. No. No, I won't. You don't have a choice. Theron's summoning you to the throne room. You're to stand at his side while he receives Marcus's petition. Lyanna's expression softened fractionally. I'd tell you to be strong, but honestly? You're walking into a nest of vipers. The best you can hope for is not to get bitten. The throne room was exactly as intimidating as Sarah expected. Massive stone pillars reached toward a vaulted ceiling. Windows threw colored light across the polished floor. And at the far end, on a throne of carved blackwood, sat Theron. He looked every inch the king. Cold. Remote. Absolutely in control. His eyes found hers as the guards escorted her in, and something flickered in their depths. But it was gone before she could read it, replaced by that impenetrable mask. Come here, he commanded. It wasn't an alpha order, she would have felt that in her bones. Just a simple command from a king to his subject. His mate. Sarah forced herself to walk forward. Every instinct screamed at her to run again, but there was nowhere to go. She climbed the dais steps and took her place at Theron's right side, acutely aware of every eye in the court watching her. Steady, Theron murmured, too low for anyone else to hear. Don't let them see weakness. Before she could respond, the main doors opened. Marcus Thornridge strode in with 6 guards at his back. He'd aged in 6 years, his dark hair now shot with silver, his face harder. But he still moved with that same arrogant confidence, that same presumption of power. And when his eyes landed on Sarah, they filled with rage. That's her, he snarled, pointing. The Omega who stole from my pack. Who fled an arranged mating. Who cost me, he cut himself off, jaw tight. I've come to claim what's mine, King Theron. By pack law, she was promised to me. By pack law, Theron said mildly, she's now mine. Claimed and mated. The bond is complete. That bond is illegal. Marcus's voice echoed off the stone. She was contracted to me. My pack paid her family's debt. We had an agreement. Had. Theron leaned forward slightly. Past tense. Your pack no longer exists in its original form. I saw to that 6 years ago when I discovered you were trafficking in unwilling mates. You attacked us without provocation. I attacked you with evidence. Theron's tone could have cut glass. Evidence of Omegas sold to the highest bidder. Of forced matings. Of abuse that violated every law we hold sacred. He paused. Evidence that your pack leadership deserved exactly what they got. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. That Omega fled with pack secrets. Information about our security, our alliances, our... I fled with nothing but my life, Sarah found herself saying. Both alphas turned to look at her, and she felt the weight of the entire court's attention. I was 17 years old. I didn't steal anything. I just ran. You were promised to me. I was sold to you. The words came out stronger than she felt. My pack traded me to settle a debt. I had no choice. No say. So yes, I ran. And I'd do it again. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's face darkened. She admits it. She broke a legally binding agreement. By pack law, she owes. She owes nothing. Theron's voice cut through the room like a blade. The only law that matters here is mine. And I say she stays. You're protecting her out of sentiment. I'm protecting my mate, Theron corrected, because returning her would signal that I consider your claim stronger than my own. Which would make me look weak. He smiled, and it was a terrible thing. I am many things, Marcus. But I am not weak. Marcus stared at him, rage and frustration warring in his expression. The council won't accept this. A king who steals another pack's promised mate. The council will accept whatever I tell them to accept. Theron stood, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. You came here demanding something that no longer belongs to you. Something that was never rightfully yours to begin with. I suggest you leave before I remember exactly what your pack did to the Omegas in your care. For a moment, Sarah thought Marcus would attack. She could see him calculating, weighing odds, considering whether 6 guards and his alpha rage would be enough against the king. Then his eyes slid to her, and they held nothing but cold promise. This isn't over, he said quietly. She'll pay for what she stole. One way or another. Are you threatening my mate? Theron's voice was deadly soft. Marcus smiled. I'm promising justice, Your Majesty. There's a difference. He turned and left, his guards following. The throne room doors closed behind them with a hollow boom. Sarah realized she was shaking. Come, Theron said, his hands suddenly at her elbow. Not rough, but firm. We're done here. He guided her out through a side door, away from the staring court. They walked in silence through corridors Sarah didn't recognize, until they reached a private study. Theron shut the door behind them and leaned against it, suddenly looking exhausted. That was a disaster, he muttered. You said I was safe. The accusation burst out of her. You said you destroyed that pack. I destroyed their leadership. Not every wolf in it. Theron scrubbed a hand over his face. Marcus was clever enough to be elsewhere during the raid. By the time I tracked him down, he'd already started rebuilding. His eyes met hers. I should have killed him when I had the chance. Why didn't you? Because pack law requires evidence for execution, and he'd covered his tracks well enough. Theron moved to pour himself a drink from a crystal decanter. He didn't offer her one. I've been watching him for years. Waiting for him to slip up. Instead, he found you. This is your fault. The words came out cold. If you hadn't forced this bond, if you'd just let me go, he would have found you anyway. Theron's tone was matter-of-fact. You think hiding as a servant would protect you forever? Your suppressants were failing, Sarah. You would have been discovered eventually. At least this way, you have the protection of my name. I don't want your protection. I want my freedom. Then you should have been born something other than an Omega. He took a long drink. We don't get to choose what we are. Only how we survive it. Sarah stared at him. At this Alpha King who'd hunted her for 6 years, who'd claimed her against her will, who now stood between her and Marcus like a wall of ice and iron. Your first mate, she said suddenly. Elena. How did she really die? Theron went very still. That's none of your concern. I'm your mate now. Everything about you is my concern. Sarah took a step closer. Lyanna said she died under mysterious circumstances. I found letters in your room. She was being followed. Threatened. Someone left Wolf's Bane outside your chambers. Stop. The command was quiet but absolute. And Sarah opened her mouth to argue, and nothing came out. She tried again. The words were there, ready to be spoken, but they wouldn't emerge. It was like trying to push through a wall. Theron's eyes widened fractionally. Say something. The word broke free suddenly. What did you do to me? I gave you an alpha command. Theron set down his glass with shaking hands. A direct order to stop talking. Every wolf in this pack would have obeyed instantly. You should have been physically unable to resist. But I am resisting. Sarah could feel it now, that pressure in her mind, trying to force compliance. But it was like pushing against a locked door. Present, but not overwhelming. Not controlling. Why isn't it working? I don't know. Theron was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. The only wolf who ever, he stopped. His face went pale. No. That's not possible. What? What's not possible? Elena. The name came out rough. She developed immunity to my alpha commands about a month before she died. I thought it was the pregnancy, some kind of hormonal change. But the pack healer said it was impossible. That kind of immunity doesn't exist. His eyes locked on hers. And yet here you are. Immune. The air between them crackled with tension. You think they're connected, Sarah said slowly. Elena's immunity and mine. I think, Theron said carefully, that someone in this castle knows more about what happened to my first mate than they've admitted. And I think they're going to be very interested to learn that my second mate shares the same impossible trait. Fear crawled up Sarah's spine. You're saying whoever killed Elena might come after me? I'm saying you're in danger. More danger than Marcus poses. Theron moved closer, and for once, his expression wasn't cold or distant. It was fierce. Protective. Which is why you're not leaving my sight. Not until I figure out what's happening. I don't need your protection. This isn't negotiable. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing over the mating mark on her neck. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. You're my mate. That means your enemies are my enemies. And I destroy my enemies, Sarah. Completely. She should pull away. Should reject his touch, his protection, his presumption of ownership. But the bond hummed between them, and some traitorous part of her wanted to lean into his hand. To trust him. To surrender. I won't be your prisoner, she whispered. Then be my queen. Theron's eyes held hers. Be my partner. Help me find whoever killed Elena and keep you safe at the same time. And if I refuse? Then you'll still be confined to my wing. Still under guard. Still bound to me by this mark. His thumb pressed gently against her throat. But you'll face it alone. Your choice. It wasn't really a choice. It was an illusion of control wrapped in pretty words. But it was more than she'd had this morning. Fine, Sarah said. I'll play queen. But only until I figure out how to break this bond. Something that might have been pain flickered across Theron's face. Bonds can't be broken. Not without killing both parties. Then I guess we'll both have to be very careful. She stepped back, breaking contact. Now tell me everything about Elena's death. If I'm walking into the same trap she did, I need to know what I'm facing. Theron studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Sit down, he said. This is going to take a while. And as he began to speak, laying out the details of his first mate's mysterious death 5 years ago, Sarah realized something that chilled her blood. The mating mark on her neck wasn't just a bond. It was a target. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3. The Blood Moon Gala was a tradition older than the castle itself, a celebration held every autumn when the moon rose red as wine over the royal pack's territory. Mandatory attendance for all court members. A display of unity and strength. And the perfect opportunity for enemies to strike. Sarah stood in front of the mirror in Theron's chambers, barely recognizing herself. The gown Lyanna had delivered was deep crimson, cut to emphasize every curve, with a neckline that displayed the silver mating mark on her throat like a brand. Her dark hair had been swept up, threaded with small rubies that caught the light. She looked like a queen. She felt like prey dressed for slaughter. Stop fidgeting, Lyanna said from behind her, adjusting the final pin. You need to look confident tonight. The court is watching for any sign of weakness. What if I don't want to do this? Sarah met Lyanna's eyes in the mirror. What if I just refuse to go? Then Theron will drag you there anyway, and you'll look like a rebellious child instead of a queen. Lyanna's expression softened fractionally. I know this isn't what you wanted. But you're here now. You might as well survive it with your dignity intact. The door opened, and Theron entered, already dressed in formal black with silver threading that matched his eyes. He stopped when he saw Sarah, something unreadable crossing his face. You look, he paused. Appropriate. Sarah's jaw tightened. 3 days since he'd told her about Elena. 3 days of living in his wing, eating meals in tense silence, learning the 1,000 unspoken rules of being a king's mate. And he still treated her like an obligation. A problem to be managed. Not once had he touched her beyond that moment in his study. Not once had he tried to invoke the mate bond that supposedly connected them. It should have been a relief. It felt like rejection. Let's get this over with, Sarah said flatly. The walk to the grand ballroom was torture. Every wolf they passed stopped to bow, their eyes tracking Sarah with open curiosity or veiled hostility. She kept her head high, one hand resting lightly on Theron's offered arm, playing the role Lyanna had coached her in. Gracious. Serene. Untouchable. The ballroom was magnificent, all glittering chandeliers and polished marble, filled with the most powerful wolves in the kingdom. The scent of too many alphas in one place made Sarah's Omega instinct scream. She wanted to run, to hide, to submit. She did none of those things. Stay close, Theron murmured as they entered. And don't accept food or drink from anyone but me. You think someone will try to poison me? I think someone already killed one queen. I won't let them take another. The possessive edge in his voice sent an unwanted shiver through her. The bond pulsed between them, insistent and infuriating. They made their way through the crowd, Theron introducing her to what felt like hundreds of wolves. Pack leaders. Council members. Allies and enemies wearing the same false smiles. Sarah's face ached from holding her expression neutral. And then she saw Marcus. He stood across the ballroom, a glass of wine in hand, watching her with those cold eyes. When their gazes met, he raised his glass in a mocking toast. Sarah's hand tightened on Theron's arm. I see him, Theron said quietly. He was invited. Refusing him entry would have been a diplomatic incident. His jaw tightened. But if he comes near you, I can handle Marcus. You shouldn't have to. Theron's eyes were hard. You're under my protection now. That means something. Before Sarah could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew everyone's attention. A messenger, breathing hard, whispered something to one of the royal guards. The guard's face went pale. Theron tensed. "Stay here." He moved toward the guard, leaving Sarah standing alone in a sea of predators. She felt their attention shift to her, assessing, calculating. Without Theron at her side, she was just an Omega. Fair game. "So you're the new queen," a voice said behind her. Sarah turned to find a woman watching her with barely concealed contempt. She was beautiful in a hard way, with blonde hair and the build of a warrior. "And you are?" Sarah kept her tone neutral. "Cassandra. Head of the King's Guard." The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I served his first mate as well." Elena was everything a queen should be, strong, elegant, devoted to her king. The unspoken comparison hung in the air. "Unlike you." "I'm sure she was." She loved him completely. Would have done anything for him. Cassandra stepped closer, her voice dropping. The bond between them was legendary. Perfect. Until she threw herself off the West Tower and destroyed everything. Sarah's breath caught. "What? Oh, didn't Theron tell you?" Cassandra's expression was pure malice. "Elena didn't die in some mysterious attack. She jumped. 5 months pregnant, in the middle of the night. They found her body at dawn. She leaned in. Some say she was mad. Others say she discovered something about the king she couldn't live with. Either way, she chose death over being his mate." The words hit like physical blows. Suicide. Elena had killed herself. "Why are you telling me this?" Sarah managed. "Because you should know what you're facing." Cassandra's eyes glittered. "The king destroys everything he touches." Elena learned that too late. "But you still have time to run." Before Sarah could respond, Cassandra melted back into the crowd. Sarah stood frozen, her mind reeling. Theron had told her Elena died under mysterious circumstances. He'd made it sound like murder. He'd never mentioned. A hand touched her elbow, and she spun to find Theron back at her side, his expression grim. "There's been an incident at the northern border," he said quietly. "Marcus's pack. They're claiming one of my patrols attacked them unprovoked." "Did they?" "No." His voice was flat. "But it's convenient timing. Marcus is trying to provoke a response, give himself justification for." He stopped, eyes widening. Sarah followed his gaze to see Marcus striding toward them, flanked by his guards. But it wasn't Marcus that made her blood run cold. It was the wolf beside him. Tall. Dark-haired. With a face that haunted her nightmares. "No," she breathed. "That's impossible." "What?" Theron's hand was suddenly on her arm. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "That wolf. With Marcus." Her voice shook. "I know him. From my old pack. He was," the memory slammed into her with brutal clarity. "He was there. The night your wolves attacked. I saw him kill one of your raiders." Theron went very still. "You're certain?" "I hid in the root cellar. I watched through the floorboards. That wolf killed a raider with dark fur and a silver stripe." She grabbed Theron's arm. "Your brother. That's who led the raid, wasn't it? Your brother who died that night?" The temperature around them dropped to Arctic. "His name was Kieran," Theron said, each word carved from ice. "And Marcus swore his pack played no part in the ambush that killed him." "He lied." Sarah's heart hammered. "That wolf was there. I saw him." Marcus was closer now, close enough that he would reach them in seconds. And suddenly Sarah understood. "He's not here to reclaim me," she whispered. "He's here to kill me. Because I'm the only witness who can prove his pack murdered your brother." "Get behind me," Theron commanded, but Sarah was already moving. Because she'd seen the glint of steel in the dark-haired wolf's hand. Seen the way he angled toward Theron, using Marcus as cover. Seen the poison coating the blade. Time slowed. Sarah's Omega instincts, the ones that could read danger, that could sense threats to her pack, her mate, screamed at her to act. She threw herself forward. The blade meant for Theron's heart buried itself in her shoulder instead. Pain exploded through her, white-hot and all-consuming. But worse was the cold that followed, spreading from the wound like ice through her veins. Poison. Fast-acting and lethal. Sarah heard screaming. Felt hands catch her as her legs gave out. Saw Theron's face above her, his careful mask shattered, his eyes wide with horror. "No," he was saying. "No, no, no." The ballroom erupted into chaos. Wolves snarling, guards rushing forward. Marcus and his companion trying to flee. But Sarah barely registered it. The cold was spreading, stealing her breath, her heartbeat, her life. "Theron," she gasped. "I saw, I remember. Don't talk. Save your strength." His hands were on her face, her shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. But they both knew it was useless. The poison was already in her system. "Your brother," she forced out. "They killed him. I witnessed. I don't care about that now." Theron's voice broke. "Stay with me. Do you hear me? Stay with me." The mate bond between them thrashed like a living thing, trying to drag them both down. Sarah felt Theron's panic, his rage, his guilt crashing over her in waves. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean." "Shut up." His arms came around her, lifting her. "You're not dying. I won't allow it." But even as he carried her from the ballroom, Sarah felt her consciousness slipping. The poison was designed to kill a king. It would consume an Omega in minutes. She was going to die in the arms of a mate she'd never wanted. The irony was almost funny. Sarah woke to pain. It burned through every nerve, every cell, like her body was being torn apart and reassembled. She tried to scream, but no sound emerged. Tried to move, but her limbs wouldn't respond. Then she felt it, Theron's presence, not just beside her but inside her. In her mind. In her memories. What's happening? Her thought echoed in the space between them. The ritual. Theron's mental voice was strained. The only way to save you. I'm sharing my life force through the bond. But it requires. Memory sharing, Sarah finished, understanding flooding through her. The ancient ritual. Forbidden because it left both participants vulnerable, exposed. Every secret, every shame, every hidden truth laid bare. "I'm sorry," Theron said. "But I won't let you die." The memories hit like a tidal wave. She saw Theron as a child, learning to fight, to lead, to hide any weakness. Saw him take the crown after his father's death, the weight of the kingdom settling on shoulders barely ready to bear it. Saw him meet Elena. The memory was so vivid Sarah felt like she was living it. Elena had been beautiful, blonde and graceful, with a laugh like sunshine. The bond between her and Theron had been immediate, overwhelming. Love at first sight in every sense. For the first year, they'd been happy. Deliriously, perfectly happy. Then Elena got pregnant, and everything changed. Sarah felt Theron's confusion as Elena began pulling away. Felt his frustration when she started refusing to eat, to sleep, to leave their chambers. Watched through his eyes as Elena grew hollow, her light dimming day by day. "What's wrong?" Theron had asked. "Tell me what's wrong." "I can't," Elena had whispered. "If I tell you, you'll just command me not to feel it. And I won't even realize it's happening. I don't understand. Don't you see?" Elena's eyes had been full of despair. "I can't disagree with you anymore. I can't make my own choices. Every decision I make, every thought I have, I don't know if it's mine or if it's what you want me to think." Theron had been horrified. I would never. You don't have to. Elena's voice was hollow. It's the bond. The curse that comes with being mated to an Alpha King. I asked the healers. They confirmed it. The stronger the bond becomes, the more my will aligns with yours. Eventually, there won't be anything left of me. Just a perfect reflection of what you want. No. That's not, there has to be a way to stop it. There isn't. Elena had touched his face, tears streaming down her cheeks. I love you. That's the worst part. I love you so much I can barely breathe. And I don't know if that's real or if it's the bond making me love you. I don't know what's me anymore. 3 weeks later, she jumped from the West Tower. The memory fractured, and Sarah was back in her own mind, gasping. The ritual was pulling them both deeper, past Theron's memories into hers. No, she tried to say. Stop. But it was too late. Theron was in her past now, seeing through her eyes. Watching her childhood in the pack that had sold her. Feeling her terror when they'd told her about the arranged mating to Marcus. Experiencing her desperate flight through the woods that night 6 years ago. And then. The memory she'd buried. The one her mind had hidden to protect her. She was in the root cellar, heart hammering, watching through the gaps in the floorboards. Watching Theron's wolves tear through her pack's leadership. Watching Marcus's brother fight back with poisoned blades. Watching the massive wolf with the silver stripe, Theron's brother, Kieran, fall as the poison took hold. And watching Theron appear, human form, cradling his brother's dying body. Watching as one of the pack elders approached. As they spoke in voices too low to hear clearly. But Sarah caught fragments. King's orders. Eliminate the trafficking network. Didn't know Marcus's brother would be here. Evidence of the operation. And then, clear as day, the girl. The Omega they were selling. She escaped. If she talks. Then we find her, Theron had said, his voice cold as death. Before Marcus does. The memory shattered. Sarah's eyes flew open. She was in Theron's chambers, in his bed, the mating mark burning on her neck. The poison was gone. She could feel her body healing, knitting itself back together through the bond. Theron sat beside her, his face haggard, his eyes haunted. You knew, Sarah said hoarsely. You knew I witnessed your brother's death. That's why you were hunting me. Yes. No denial. No excuse. And the raid on my pack, that was on royal orders? Your father's orders? To shut down the trafficking network. Marcus's pack was the hub. Theron's voice was flat. My brother was supposed to gather evidence, not engage. But Marcus's wolves were there. They ambushed him. And you've been hunting me for 6 years because I was a witness. No. Theron's hands clenched into fists. I was hunting you because Marcus would torture you to find out what you knew. Because you were the only living proof his pack killed a member of the royal family. Because I couldn't let him get to you first. Sarah pushed herself upright, ignoring the protest from her healing shoulder. You claimed me to protect your investigation. I claimed you because the mate bonds snapped into place and I couldn't. He stopped. Looked away. It doesn't matter why. It's done. It matters to me. Sarah's voice shook. Elena died because the bond erased her will. And now you've bound me to the same fate. How long, Theron? How long until I stop being me? I don't know. The admission seemed to cost him. With Elena, it took 2 years. But every bond is different. Every Omega responds differently to the curse. Sarah laughed, and it came out broken. That's what she called it, isn't it? The curse of being mated to an Alpha King. Your power is so strong it overwhelms your mate's will. Slowly. Inevitably. Theron's jaw tightened. I'm trying to find a way to break it. I have researchers looking into old texts, ancient remedies. You've had 6 years and found nothing. Sarah met his eyes. Because there is no cure. Elena discovered that. That's why she jumped. Yes. The single word hung between them. And the immunity? Sarah pressed. The fact that I can resist your alpha commands? It's the same thing that happened with Elena. A desperate attempt by your body to fight the bond's influence. Theron's voice was hollow. It won't last. Eventually, the curse wins. It always wins. Sarah felt the walls closing in. She was trapped, not just by pack law or the mating mark, but by biology itself. Her mind, her will, her very self would slowly dissolve until nothing remained but a perfect, hollow queen. I should have let you die, she whispered. On that ballroom floor. I should have let the blade find its target. Probably. Theron's smile was bitter. It would have been kinder than this. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lyanna entered without waiting for permission, her expression urgent. Marcus escaped in the chaos. But we captured his associate, the one who wielded the blade. Her eyes flicked to Sarah. He's talking. Confirming everything. Marcus ordered the hit on Theron. Wants you both dead before Sarah's testimony can link his pact to Kieran's murder. So it's war, Theron said quietly. It was always going to be war. Lyanna's voice was grim. Marcus has been building toward this for years. He's allied with 3 other packs, all former trafficking networks you shut down. They want revenge, and they want it bloody. Sarah's mind raced. War. Because she'd thrown herself in front of a poisoned blade. Because she was a witness to a murder 6 years ago. Because the mate bond made her act on instinct instead of logic. Because she'd saved a king she should hate. What happens now? She asked. Now? Theron stood, and suddenly he was every inch the warrior king. Now I call in my allies. Fortify our borders. And make it very clear that anyone who threatens my mate faces the full strength of the royal pack. I can fight, Sarah heard herself say. I can testify against Marcus. I can. You can stay in this castle where you're protected. Theron's tone left no room for argument. I won't risk. Stop. The word came out sharper than she intended. Stop deciding what I can and can't do. Stop treating me like I'm fragile. I took a blade meant for you. I'm a witness to murder. And whether I like it or not, I'm your mate. Which means this is my fight too. Something shifted in Theron's expression. Not quite respect, but close. The curse hasn't taken you yet, he said softly. You're still fighting me. Still refusing to submit. I'll fight it until there's nothing left to fight with. Sarah's voice was steel. And then I'll do what Elena did. I'll choose death over becoming a hollow puppet. No. The word was immediate, fierce. You don't get to make that choice. Watch me. They stared at each other, the bond crackling between them, equal parts attraction and antagonism. 2 people bound by fate, by politics, by a murder witnessed in a root cellar 6 years ago. 2 people trapped in a curse neither could break. Lyanna cleared her throat. Should I leave you 2 to continue this death pact discussion, or would you like to hear the rest of my report? Report, Theron said, not taking his eyes off Sarah. Marcus has sent word to the council. He's formally accusing you of murdering his brother during an illegal raid. Claims Sarah is a co-conspirator you're protecting. Lyanna paused. He's demanding a tribunal. Sarah's blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means, Theron said slowly, that in 3 weeks, you'll stand before the Council of Alphas and testify to what you saw that night. They'll judge whether my father's raid was justified, whether Marcus's pack was involved in Kieran's death, and whether you and I are guilty of crimes against pack law. And if they find us guilty? Then Marcus gets his revenge. You'll be returned to him, and I'll face execution. The room spun. Sarah grabbed the bedpost for support. There has to be another way. There isn't. Theron's voice was flat. Pack law is absolute. If we don't appear before the tribunal, every pack in the kingdom will turn against us. If we do appear and lose, we both die. He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. But I won't let it come to that. I swear to you, Sarah. I will find a way to keep you safe. Even if it costs your throne. Even then. The words should have meant nothing. He was a king who'd forced a bond on her. A wolf whose curse would slowly steal her mind. An alpha she should despise. But looking into his eyes, feeling the mate bond pulse between them, Sarah realized something that terrified her more than poison or war or losing her free will. She was starting to believe him. And she didn't know if that belief was real, or the first sign that the curse was taking hold. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The meeting took place in the bowels of the castle, in a storage room that smelled of old wine and forgotten things. Sarah had followed the coded message slipped under her door at midnight, 3 knocks, a whispered word, directions that led her through passages she didn't know existed. Now she stood facing 5 wolves she'd never met, all of them watching her with expressions that ranged from hope to suspicion. You came, said the woman who'd sent the message. She was small, dark-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd learned to make herself invisible. I wasn't sure you would. You said you could help me break the mate bond. Sarah kept her voice steady despite her racing heart. Was that a lie? No lie. The woman gestured to the others. We're part of a network. Omegas who've suffered under forced bonds. Betas who've watched their friends lose themselves. We've been searching for a way to break the curse for decades. And you think I'm the key? Sarah's laugh was bitter. I'm just another Omega trapped in a bond one didn't choose. You're more than that. A man stepped forward, older, with the look of a scholar. My name is Dr. Alexei Voron. I've studied mate bond mechanics for 30 years. And I've never seen an Omega develop immunity to alpha commands this quickly. Usually it takes months, even years. You did it in days. Sarah's skin prickled. What does that mean? It means you're different. Alexei pulled out a worn journal, flipping to a marked page. There are legends, old stories passed down through healer lines, of Omegas born with a natural resistance to alpha influence. They called them nulls. Omegas who could nullify the power dynamic inherent in the bond. That's impossible, Sarah breathed. Is it? You survived poison that should have killed you in minutes. You resist the king's commands. And according to our sources, your bond with Theron is already showing unusual characteristics. Alexei's eyes were intense. You're the first null Omega I've encountered in my lifetime. Possibly the first in 1,000 years. The room felt too small suddenly. Too close. Even if that's true, Sarah said carefully, how does it help break the bond? Because null Omegas have the power to sever mate bonds without death. Theoretically. Alexei's expression was grim. The problem is, we don't have enough data. The last recorded null died centuries ago. We're working blind. So you want to experiment on me? We want to save you, the first woman corrected. And every other Omega trapped in a bond they didn't choose. You could be the key to ending the curse forever. Sarah wanted to say no. Wanted to walk away from this dangerous conspiracy. But the thought of losing herself day by day, of becoming a hollow echo of Theron's desires. What do you need from me? She asked. The tribunal was 19 days away when Sarah started having the dreams. She'd wake gasping, Theron's memories tangled with her own. His childhood fears. His grief over Kieran. His desperate love for Elena and the horror of watching her fade. The mate bond was deepening despite her resistance. She could feel it, a slow erosion of the walls she'd built around her mind. During the day, she played the role of queen. Stood at Theron's side as he prepared for war with Marcus. Smiled and nodded through endless strategy meetings. All while secretly meeting with Alexei's network, submitting to tests, searching for a way out. Lyanna was her unexpected ally. "I loved Elena," Lyanna had admitted one night, when she'd found Sarah in the library researching ancient Omega rites. "Not as a friend. As more. And I watched Theron's bond destroy her. Watched her fight to stay herself and lose anyway. Her eyes were hard. I won't watch it happen again. Does Theron know you help us? Theron knows I hate what the bond did to Elena. He doesn't know I'm actively working to break it." Lyanna's smile was sharp. "My brother is many things, but he's not as observant as he thinks." Now, 13 days before the tribunal, Sarah sat in Alexei's makeshift laboratory, a converted wine cellar deep beneath the castle, while he drew her blood and ran tests with equipment that looked older than the kingdom itself. "The bond should be stronger by now," Alexei muttered, studying a vial of her blood. "Based on the timeline with Elena, you should be showing signs of will erosion. But your cognitive function tests show no degradation. No loss of independent thought. Maybe I'm just stubborn. Or maybe you're suppressing the bonds somehow." He looked up. "Have you noticed any changes? Moments where your thoughts align with the king's without meaning to?" Sarah hesitated. "Sometimes. When he's nearby. I'll think something, and then realize he was thinking the same thing. Or I'll want to do something he wants, and I can't tell if it's my choice or the bond's influence." Alexei nodded grimly. "It's starting. Slower than expected, but inevitable unless we find a solution. Have you found anything? Anything at all?" Alexei was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out a different journal, this one bound in cracked leather, the pages yellowed with age. "I found this in the restricted section of the Royal Archives. It took Lyanna's security clearance to access it." He opened to a marked page. "It's a healer's account from 800 years ago. She treated a null Omega bonded to an Alpha King." Sarah's heart hammered. "What happened?" "According to the text, the curse can be broken. But the price is steep." Alexei's finger traced the faded script. "The Alpha King must willingly reject his mate, fully, completely, with intent to sever the bond. And then he must die. The rejection breaks the curse, but the backlash of severing such a powerful bond will kill him within hours." The room spun. "So there's no way to save us both?" "Not according to this text." Alexei's expression was sympathetic. "But there might be another option. The account mentions that if a null Omega can learn to fully control her abilities, she might be able to channel the bond's energy differently. Use it to break the curse without requiring the king's death." "Might?" The healer didn't elaborate. Either she didn't know the specifics, or that part of the text has been lost to time. He closed the journal. "But it's our best hope. We just need to figure out how to trigger your full null abilities." Sarah stared at the ancient text. One path led to Theron's certain death. The other led into unknown territory with no guarantee of success. "Keep researching," she said finally. "I'll do whatever tests you need." 10 days before the tribunal, everything went wrong. Sarah was in Theron's study, their study now, though she still thought of it as his, reviewing testimony for the upcoming hearing when she heard raised voices outside. "Absolute insanity," someone was saying. "The king has lost his mind over this Omega. It's more than that." A second voice, female. "She's dangerous. Her existence threatens everything we've built." Sarah moved closer to the door, her heart racing. "We had a plan," the first voice continued. "A noble mate from the Northridge Pack. An alliance that would have secured our borders. And instead Theron claims a runaway with no connections, no value. Who survived an assassination attempt meant to look like Marcus's doing." The woman's voice was cold. "Convenient, wasn't it? That she threw herself in front of the blade? You think she planned it?" I think someone on the council wanted that blade to miss. Wanted to make Theron look like a victim so he'd have public support for keeping her. Sarah's blood ran cold. The assassination attempt, it hadn't been Marcus at all. It had been orchestrated by Theron's own council. When do we move? The first voice asked. After the tribunal. When public opinion turns against them both. Then we'll have justification for. The voices faded as the speakers moved away. Sarah stood frozen, her mind racing. The council wanted her dead. Or wanted Theron to reject her. Or possibly both. And they'd nearly succeeded at the gala. She needed to tell Theron. But if she did, he'd lock her away for protection. He'd treat her like something fragile that needed guarding. And she'd lose the small amount of agency she'd clawed back. Unless she handled it herself. 7 days before the tribunal, Sarah made a mistake. She was working late in Alexei's lab, running through cognitive tests to measure the bond's progression, when Theron found her. She heard his footsteps on the stone stairs, knew it was him before he appeared in the doorway. The bond always announced his presence now, a warm pulse against her consciousness. Sarah. His voice was carefully neutral. What are you doing down here? Sarah's mind went blank. Alexei had vanished into the shadows, the network was good at disappearing. But the equipment was still visible. The journal spread across the table. The vials of her blood. Research, she said finally. For the tribunal. Theron's eyes swept the room, taking in every detail. When they landed on the ancient journal, the one describing the cure that required his death, his expression went cold. Research. He stepped into the room. What kind of research requires drawing your own blood? The kind that might save us both. Sarah lifted her chin. I'm trying to find a way to break the curse without telling me. His voice was dangerously soft. Without trusting me. You've been working behind my back this entire time. Because you forced this bond on me. The words burst out. Because I'm losing myself day by day and you just expect me to accept it. I've been searching for a cure since the day I claimed you. Theron's control shattered. Do you think I want this? Do you think I enjoyed watching Elena fade? That I want to watch you disappear the same way? Sarah stared at him. What? I have 3 researchers working full-time on breaking the curse. I've consulted every healer in the kingdom. I've traded favors with packs I despise for access to their archives. His hands clenched into fists. I've spent 6 years trying to find a way to save my mate without destroying her. And you thought, what? That I'd just let it happen again? You never told me. Because it's my burden to bear. Theron's eyes blazed. You've made it clear you hate this bond. Hate me. The least I could do was try to fix what I forced on you. The silence that followed was deafening. I don't hate you, Sarah whispered. Theron's laugh was broken. You should. Everything you've suffered is my fault. The bond. The curse. Marcus. The council plotting against you, yes, I know about that too. My intelligence network isn't completely useless. He moved closer. You took a blade meant for me. You're risking your life to testify against Marcus. And I've given you nothing but more danger. You've given me protection. I've given you a cage. His hand came up to touch the mating mark on her neck. A beautiful cage, maybe. But still a cage. And now you're trying to find a way out, and I can't even blame you. Sarah's throat tightened. The research says you'd have to die. To break the curse. You'd have to reject me and let the backlash kill you. I know. Theron's smile was sad. I found that text 3 years ago. My researchers confirmed it last year. And you were planning, what? To sacrifice yourself? If it came to that. His thumb brushed over her pulse point. Better that than watch you become a hollow echo of yourself. Better that than condemn you to Elena's fate. The bond thrummed between them, and Sarah realized something that shook her to her core. She didn't want him to die. The thought of Theron sacrificing himself, of the bonds severing permanently, of never feeling his presence again. It hurt. There might be another way, she said quickly. The text mentions null omegas. Omegas who can break the curse without death. And I, the researcher I've been working with, thinks I might be one. Theron went very still. A null omega. You know about them? Legends. Stories. His eyes searched hers. If you're truly a null, Sarah, do you understand what that means? That I can break our bond? That you could break the curse itself? Not just for us, but for every Alpha-Omega pair in existence. His voice dropped. The mate bond curse, the loss of will, the forced compliance, it's not natural. It's a corruption that appeared about 2,000 years ago, right around the time the last recorded null omega died. Some healers theorize the curse is actually the absence of null omegas to balance alpha power. Sarah's mind reeled. So if I can access my abilities, you could restore balance. End the curse for everyone. Theron's expression was complex. Or you could amplify it. Make it spread faster, consume omegas more completely. We don't know. No one's seen a null omega use their full power. How do you know all this? Because I've been researching too. He pulled her toward the table, spreading out documents she'd never seen. My team found references to null omegas in 4 different archives. The power is real. But it's also dangerous. Unpredictable. Sarah stared at the documents, years of research, meticulously organized. You've been working on this the whole time. Yes. And you never told me. Because I didn't want to give you false hope. Theron's voice was rough. I didn't want you to think I was making excuses for forcing the bond. And I didn't want you to feel pressure to be something you're not. But I am. The certainty settled over her. I can feel it. The resistance to your commands. The way the bond doesn't consume me like it should. I'm a null omega. Maybe. Theron's hand covered hers. But that doesn't mean you can control it. And if you can't, if you try to use your power and it backfires, it could make things worse, Sarah finished. Make the curse stronger instead of breaking it. Exactly. They stood together in the candlelit laboratory, surrounded by years of research, both searching for the same answer through different paths. We should have been working together, Sarah said quietly. Instead of hiding things from each other. Yes. Theron's thumb traced circles on her palm. But we're both too stubborn for our own good. Despite everything, Sarah smiled. That's probably the most honest thing you've ever said to me. Then let me say something else honest. Theron turned her to face him fully. I don't want to die. And I don't want you to lose yourself to the curse. So whatever we do next, whatever we try, we do it together. No more secrets. No more working alone. Sarah wanted to agree. But she thought of the council plotting against them. Of Marcus building his case for the tribunal. Of the deadline racing toward them with no solution in sight. Together, she echoed. But I can't promise I won't do something reckless if it means saving us both. I'd expect nothing less. His smile was genuine this time. You did throw yourself in front of a poisoned blade for me. Stupidest thing I've ever done. Or the bravest. Theron's expression softened. You're not what I expected, Sarah. When I spent 6 years hunting you, I thought I'd find someone who needed rescuing. Someone who'd be grateful for my protection. But instead you got someone who fights you at every turn. Instead I got someone who challenges me. Who refuses to submit even when biology demands it. Who'd rather die than lose herself. His hand cupped her face. I'm starting to think fate knew what it was doing when it made us mates. The bond pulsed warm between them, and for the first time since the claiming, Sarah didn't fight it. She let herself lean into his touch. Let herself acknowledge what she'd been denying for weeks. The growing feelings that might be real, or might be the curse taking hold. How do we know? She whispered. How do I know if what I'm feeling is real or just the bond making me feel it? I don't think we can know. Theron's honesty was brutal. That's the cruelest part of the curse. It makes you doubt everything. Elena couldn't live with that doubt. Elena was already lost when she realized what was happening. She'd been bonded for 2 years. The erosion was too advanced. His eyes held hers. But you're still fighting. Still yourself. If you can hold on long enough for us to find a solution. A noise from the doorway made them both turn. Lyanna stood there, her face pale. We have a problem. A big one. What happened? Theron demanded. Marcus moved up his timeline. He's filed a formal challenge with the council. Lyanna's voice was tight. The tribunal is in 3 days instead of 7. And he's brought evidence, letters, supposedly from Elena, claiming you abused her. That you're the reason she died. Theron went rigid. That's impossible. Elena never wrote anything like that. Forged, obviously. But they look authentic enough that the council has to investigate. Lyanna's eyes flicked to Sarah. And there's more. Marcus claims Sarah isn't just a witness. He says she was part of the trafficking network. That she helped arrange forced matings and ran only when the operation was exposed. That's a lie. Sarah's voice shook with rage. I was a victim, not a... I know. Lyanna's expression was sympathetic. But Marcus has witnesses ready to testify otherwise. He's building a case that you're both criminals who deserve execution. The room seemed to tilt. 3 days. They had 3 days to prepare a defense against forged evidence and false testimony. 3 days before Sarah would stand before the council and fight for both their lives. 3 days to somehow unlock null omega abilities she didn't understand and break a curse that had existed for 2,000 years. This is my fault, Sarah said numbly. If I'd never come to the coronation hunt. Then Marcus would have found another way to destroy me. Theron's voice was firm. This has been building for 6 years. Since my father's raid. Since Kieran's death. You're just the excuse he's been waiting for. So what do we do? Sarah looked between them. How do we fight forged evidence and paid witnesses? Theron and Lyanna exchanged a look. We tell the truth, Theron said finally. All of it. About the trafficking network. About what you witnessed that night. About my father's orders and Kieran's death. He turned to Sarah. And we pray the council cares more about justice than politics. And if they don't? Then we run. His hand found hers, squeezing tight. The bond might be a curse, but it also makes us stronger together. If the council rules against us, we'll disappear. Find another way to break the curse where no one can stop us. You'd give up your throne? I'd give up anything to keep you safe. The words were simple. Let herself take comfort from the bond instead of fighting it. Tomorrow they'd strategize. Tomorrow they'd prepare their defense and unlock her null abilities and somehow survive a tribunal designed to destroy them. But tonight, just for tonight, she'd let herself believe they might actually make it through this together. Even if that belief was the curse's sweetest lie. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The attack came at dawn on the day of the tribunal. Sarah woke to the sound of explosions. The castle shook, dust raining from the ceiling as alarms howled through the corridors. Theron was already moving, pulling on clothes, weapons appearing in his hands like he'd been born with them. Stay here, he commanded, then caught himself. Please. Stay here where you're safe. But safe was an illusion, and they both knew it. The door burst open before Sarah could respond. Lyanna, wild-eyed and bloodied, stumbled in. They're everywhere. Marcus brought an army, rogues, mercenaries, 3 rival packs. They've breached the outer walls. How many? Theron's voice was ice. 200, maybe more. They're hitting every gate simultaneously. Lyanna's eyes found Sarah. And they're asking for her specifically. This isn't about the tribunal anymore. Marcus wants her. Theron's face went hard. He'll have to go through me first. Another explosion rocked the castle. Closer this time. The council's evacuating, Lyanna said. They're calling this an act of war. If we survive, Marcus will be executed for treason. If we survive, Theron repeated grimly. He turned to Sarah. There's a safe room 3 levels down. Reinforced walls, hidden entrance. I need you to go there now. No. Sarah was already pulling on the leather fighting gear Lyanna had insisted she learn to wear. I'm done hiding. If Marcus wants me, let him face me. Sarah. I can fight. She met his eyes. And more importantly, I'm what he wants. If I hide, he'll tear this castle apart looking for me. How many will die while I cower in a safe room? The bond thrummed with Theron's fear and frustration. But underneath it, she felt something else. Pride. You're right, he said finally. But you stay with me. No running off to be heroic. Says the king who leads every charge himself. That's different. Because you're the king? Sarah raised an eyebrow. Or because you're an alpha who thinks omegas can't handle themselves? Despite the chaos, despite the war literally at their doorstep, Theron smiled. You're going to be a terrible queen. Too stubborn. Too reckless. I learned from the best. Another explosion, and then the sound of fighting, snarls and screams echoing through the stone corridors. They're inside, Lyanna said. We need to move. Now. They ran through passages Sarah had only recently learned, Theron leading with Lyanna guarding their flank. The castle was chaos, royal guards fighting desperately against waves of attackers, servants fleeing through hidden corridors, the smell of blood and smoke thick in the air. Sarah caught glimpses of the invaders. Rogues with wild eyes and no pack allegiance. Mercenaries fighting for coin rather than cause. And Marcus's wolves, organized, disciplined, moving with deadly purpose. They were hunting. The throne room, Theron decided. Defensible position, multiple exits. We make our stand there. But as they rounded the final corner, a massive gray wolf blocked their path. It shifted in a ripple of power, revealing Marcus himself. Behind him, a dozen fighters spread out, cutting off escape. Your Majesty. Marcus's smile was all teeth. And the little Omega who started all this. How convenient. You're a dead man, Theron said quietly. Attacking the capital is treason. The council will. The council is trapped in their chambers, debating their next move while my forces take this castle. Marcus tilted his head. By the time they decide on a course of action, you'll both be dead and I'll control the throne room. They'll have no choice but to negotiate. You'll never hold the capital. I don't need to hold it. I just need to expose you. Marcus's eyes glittered. Tell me, Your Majesty, does your precious mate know the whole truth? About what your bloodline really is? What the mate bond actually represents? Sarah felt Theron tense beside her. Don't. Oh, but she deserves to know. Marcus took a step closer. The mate bond isn't natural, Sarah. It never was. 3,000 years ago, the Alpha Kings were losing power. Omegas were too independent, too strong. They could reject Alphas, choose their own mates, lead packs themselves. The Kings couldn't control them. Marcus, I'm warning you. So they created a curse. Marcus spoke over Theron's objection. Used dark magic, blood rituals, forbidden arts. They forced a bond into existence, one that would make Omegas biologically compelled to submit to Alpha will. That would erase their autonomy and ensure bloodline purity. And they've been guarding that secret ever since. The words hit like physical blows. Sarah's mind reeled. That's not, Theron? It's true. Theron's voice was hollow. I found the records 5 years ago. Hidden in the royal archives, sealed under blood magic. My ancestor created the mate bond curse. And every Alpha King since has perpetuated the lie that it's natural. Sacred. Sarah couldn't breathe. You knew. This whole time, you knew the bond was artificially created. I've been trying to break it. Theron turned to her, desperate. Why do you think I've spent years researching? The curse, the loss of will, it's all because my bloodline created something that should never have existed. I've been trying to undo it. By claiming another Omega? The betrayal cut deep. By forcing a bond you knew was built on dark magic and lies? By finding a null Omega who might be able to destroy it forever. Theron's control shattered. You're not random, Sarah. You're not an accident. Null Omegas are the universe's answer to the curse, born once every 1,000 years to restore balance. I've been searching for you specifically because you're the only one who can end this. How touching. Marcus's voice dripped poison. The king uses his mate to break the curse that gives him power. Very noble. Except you left out one crucial detail, didn't you, Your Majesty? Shut up, Theron growled. Tell her why you really killed my brother. Marcus's smile was vicious. Tell her what Jonathan discovered. Theron's hands clenched into fists. Jonathan was investigating the trafficking rings. He found evidence that led back to the royal bloodline. He found the original ritual. Marcus's eyes blazed. The one that created the mate bond curse. And he was going to expose it. Was going to tell every pack in the kingdom that the Alpha Kings built their power on enslaving Omegas. He pointed at Theron. So the old king ordered him killed. And your brother Kieran carried out that execution. The throne room seemed to tilt. Sarah looked at Theron, searching his face for denial. She found only guilt. Jonathan had to die, Theron said quietly. Not because he discovered the truth, but because he was going to weaponize it. Use it to start a war that would have destroyed the kingdom. My father made the only choice he could. The only choice that preserved your family's power, Marcus spat. And then you continued the cover-up. Hunted down everyone Jonathan told. Including Sarah, the witness who saw Kieran kill him. I hunted her to protect her. You hunted her because she's a null Omega who could destroy everything your bloodline built. Marcus's voice echoed off the stone. You claimed her, forced the bond, all while lying about why you needed her. Sarah felt like she was drowning. Every truth she'd believed was crumbling. Theron hadn't been trying to save her. He'd been trying to use her. Is that true? Her voice came out broken. Did you claim me just to use my abilities to break the curse? Theron's eyes met hers. At first, yes. When I tracked you 6 years ago, that was the plan. Find the null Omega. Force the bond. Use your power to end the curse and erase my family's sin. His voice dropped. But then I actually met you. Actually got to know you. And everything changed. Convenient story. It's the truth. Theron stepped toward her, ignoring Marcus and his fighters. Yes, I claimed you for strategic reasons. Yes, I was going to use you. But I fell in love with you anyway. Somewhere between your stubborn refusal to submit and your ridiculous bravery and the way you challenge everything I thought I knew about strength and power, I fell. The bond pulsed between them, warm and insistent. Sarah wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that what she felt was real. But how could she, when everything was built on lies? Enough. Marcus gestured, and his fighters moved forward. You can sort out your relationship drama after you're both dead. Sarah, come with me willingly, and I'll let Theron live. Refuse, and I'll make you watch while I tear him apart. Sarah's hand moved to the blade at her belt, one of the weapons Lyanna had taught her to carry. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you've chosen his death. Marcus shifted, and his fighters followed. The fight erupted in a chaos of fangs and claws and steel. Theron moved like violence incarnate, his alpha power fully unleashed. Lyanna fought beside him, protecting their flank. And Sarah. Sarah felt something crack open inside her. The Null Omega ability she'd been trying to access, that Alexei had been testing for weeks, suddenly bloomed like fire in her veins. She could feel every bond in the room, Theron's claim on her, yes, but also the pack bonds connecting Marcus to his fighters, the loyalty bonds between royal guards and their king. And she could feel how wrong they all were. Chains disguised as connections. Compulsion wrapped in tradition. She could break them. A rogue lunged for her throat. Sarah raised her hand, not with a weapon, but with pure will, and the pack bond connecting him to Marcus shattered. The wolf stumbled, suddenly free of the alpha's control, confusion replacing bloodlust. What? Marcus's head whipped toward her. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible. Sarah felt power coursing through her, wild and dangerous and absolutely right. You wanted a Null Omega? You've got one. She reached out with her newfound abilities and tore apart every bond Marcus held. His fighters stumbled, their compulsion to obey him vanishing like smoke. Some fled immediately. Others shifted back to human form, staring at their hands like they didn't recognize them. Free, one whispered. I'm free. Marcus roared in rage and shifted, launching himself at Sarah with claws extended. But Theron was faster. He met Marcus mid-leap, two alphas colliding in a tangle of fur and fury. They were evenly matched, Marcus driven by rage and revenge, Theron fighting with the desperate strength of someone protecting his mate. Blood sprayed across the stone floor. Both wolves bore wounds that would have killed lesser fighters. Then Marcus got past Theron's guard and went for Sarah again. She couldn't move fast enough. Couldn't dodge. His jaws opened, aimed for her throat. And Theron threw himself between them. Marcus's teeth sank deep into Theron's shoulder instead. Sarah heard bone crack. Saw blood, too much blood, pour from the wound. Theron shifted back to human form, his hand pressed against the injury, his face ashen. No. The word tore from Sarah's throat. The bond between them screamed. She could feel Theron's pain, his fading strength. He was dying. Right here, right now, because he'd protected her. Because he loved her. And suddenly Sarah understood. The bond wasn't just chains. It was connection. Not forced submission but genuine partnership, if they chose to make it so. She remembered Alexei's research. The ancient texts. The ritual that could sever the bond but required the alpha's death. And she remembered Theron's words from days ago, I'd give up anything to keep you safe. Marcus circled them, preparing for the killing blow. Behind him, Lyanna and the royal guards were fighting desperately, but they were outnumbered. The battle was lost. Unless Sarah took the third option. She pulled the ritual knife from her belt, the one she'd stolen from Alexei's lab weeks ago, just in case. The blade was ancient, inscribed with symbols that predated the kingdom itself. Sarah, no, Theron tried to reach for her. Don't you dare. I'm not severing the bond. She cut her palm in one swift motion, blood welling bright and red. I'm rewriting it. That's not possible. I'm a Null Omega. Everything about me shouldn't be possible. She grabbed Theron's hand and cut his palm too, pressing their bleeding hands together. You created the curse through blood magic and dark rituals. I'm ending it the same way. The bond between them flared white-hot. But Sarah pushed deeper, past the surface connection, down to the root of the curse itself. She could feel it, the original ritual, 3,000 years old, woven through every Alpha-Omega pair in existence. Control. Submission. Forced compliance. She could destroy it entirely. Break every bond and leave chaos in its wake. Or she could transform it. Sarah closed her eyes and poured everything she was into the bond. Not to break it, but to remake it. To strip away the compulsion and the loss of will and the slow erosion of self. To leave only the connection, the choice to love, to trust, to partner as equals. The magic fought her. It was old, powerful, written into the DNA of every wolf alive. But Sarah was stronger. She was the answer the universe had been waiting for. The balance to centuries of corruption. She rewrote the curse line by line. Changed forced submission into mutual respect. Changed loss of will into shared strength. Changed chains into choice. The power built until Sarah thought she'd burst from it. Until the bond between her and Theron blazed like a star. And then it shattered. The shockwave exploded outward from their joined hands, racing through the castle, through the capital, through the entire kingdom. Sarah felt it touch every bonded pair, felt the curse break, felt Omegas across the realms suddenly able to think clearly for the first time in their bonded lives. Felt the balance restore. She collapsed against Theron, gasping. The bond between them was still there, but it felt different now. Clean. Equal. She could feel his presence, his emotions, but they didn't overwhelm her. Didn't compel her. She was still herself. Still Sarah. Still free. What did you do? Theron's voice was awed. I gave us a choice. Sarah looked up at him. The bond is still there. But it's not a curse anymore. It's just a connection. We can choose to honor it. Or we can choose to walk away. I choose you. The words were immediate. I'll always choose you. Even though I'm stubborn and reckless and terrible at being a queen. Especially because of that. Theron's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. I love you. Not because the bond makes me, but because you're you. Because you threw yourself in front of a blade for me. Because you challenge me and infuriate me and make me want to be better. He smiled. So yes, I choose you. Every time. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks. I choose you too. Even though you're a lying, manipulative alpha king with terrible communication skills. I'll work on that. You'd better. They kissed, and it was different than before. Not driven by the mate bond's demands but by genuine want. Genuine love. Genuine choice. A roar reminded them the battle wasn't over. Marcus, forgotten in the chaos, lunged for them one final time. But he was alone now, his fighters freed from his control, his allies abandoning him. Theron met him easily, despite his injury. Without the bond's compulsion, without the curse amplifying alpha dominance, they were just two wolves fighting. And Theron was better. He had Marcus pinned within seconds. Yield, Theron commanded. Not an alpha order, those didn't work anymore. Just a simple demand. Marcus struggled, but it was over. The royal guards flooded in, securing the remaining attackers. The battle had ended almost as quickly as it began. But as Sarah stood there, blood on her hands and power still crackling in her veins, she heard new footsteps. The council entered the throne room, led by Cassandra. Their faces were hard. Angry. Arrest them both, Cassandra ordered. Sarah's heart sank. What? You destroyed the mate bond. Cassandra's voice was ice. You shattered sacred tradition. Every bonded pair in the kingdom felt it, Omegas suddenly free of compulsion, Alphas losing their natural authority. You've destabilized the entire social order. We freed people from a curse, Sarah started. You committed heresy. Another council member stepped forward. The mate bond is the foundation of our society. Without it, chaos will reign. Omegas will refuse to bond, packs will fall apart, bloodlines will be corrupted. Or, Lyanna interjected, moving to stand beside Sarah and Theron, wolves will finally bond by choice instead of compulsion. They'll build relationships on trust instead of biological slavery. They'll be free. Freedom is dangerous, Cassandra said flatly. People need structure. They need to know their place. They need agency, Sarah countered. The right to choose their own mates. Their own paths. Their own lives. Treason. The council members' eyes were cold. Both of you will stand trial. Not just for Marcus's accusations, but for destroying the mate bond itself. Theron squeezed Sarah's hand. Then we'll stand trial together. As equals, Sarah added. Not as King and Omega. As partners who chose each other. The council looked at them with barely disguised disgust. But underneath it, Sarah sensed something else. Fear. Because the old ways were crumbling, and people who'd built their power on those traditions didn't know how to adapt. But they would learn. Or they'd be left behind. Take them to the secure wing, Cassandra ordered. They'll await trial under guard. As royal guards moved forward, carefully, respectfully, because even imprisoned Theron was still their king, Sarah felt the bond pulse warm between them. Not controlling. Not overwhelming. Just there. A reminder that she wasn't alone. I meant what I said, Theron murmured as they were led away. I choose you. I know. Sarah squeezed his hand back. And I choose you. Whatever happens next, trial, exile, execution, we face it together. Together, Theron agreed. And as they walked through the damaged castle, past freed fighters and confused guards and Omegas touching their throats like they couldn't quite believe the compulsion was gone, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt since the night she fled her birth pack. Hope. The bond was broken. The curse was ended. And for the first time in 3,000 years, wolves could choose their own destinies. Starting with her. 3 months later. The trial had been a spectacle. Weeks of testimony, arguments, public opinion swinging wildly between condemning them as traitors and celebrating them as liberators. In the end, the council had no choice but to accept the new reality. The curse was gone. Omegas across the kingdom were refusing forced bonds, demanding rights, building lives on their own terms. The old world was dying. The new one was being born. Theron kept his throne, barely. A slim majority of the council voted to allow him to continue ruling, provided he implements sweeping reforms. Equal rights for Omegas. Consent laws for bonding. Redistribution of power away from alpha-dominated hierarchies. It would take years. Maybe generations. But it was a start. Marcus stood trial separately and was exiled, his pack disbanded. He'd live out his days as a rogue, the thing he'd feared most. And Sarah. Sarah stood in the bathroom of the royal chambers, staring at the positive test in her hand, her heart hammering. Pregnant. She'd suspected for weeks but hadn't wanted to believe it. Hadn't wanted to deal with the complications. But there was no denying the evidence. She was carrying Theron's child. The door opened, and Theron entered, his smile fading when he saw her expression. What's wrong? Sarah held up the test silently. Theron stared at it. Then at her. Then back at the test. He couldn't seem to finish a sentence. Pregnant. Sarah's voice shook. I'm pregnant. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Theron was across the room, pulling her into his arms, his face buried in her hair. Do you want? He pulled back to look at her. Are you happy about this? Sarah realized she was crying. I don't know. It's terrifying. We just ended a 3,000-year-old curse and half the kingdom wants us dead. This is the worst possible time to have a baby. Agreed. But, she touched her stomach. But this child will be the first Alpha or Omega born without the curse. The first wolf who can grow up making their own choices about bonds and mates. The first one who's truly free. That's a lot of pressure for someone not even born yet, Theron said, but his eyes were bright. They'll have us to help them. Sarah leaned into him. To teach them about choice and partnership and building relationships on trust instead of compulsion. We're going to be terrible parents. You realize that, right? The absolute worst. Sarah smiled through her tears. But we'll try our best. Theron's hand covered hers on her stomach. A child. Our child. Our choice, Sarah corrected. Our choice, he echoed. They stood together in the morning light, two wolves who'd been forced into a bond and had transformed it into love. Two people facing an uncertain future with a kingdom to rebuild and a child on the way. Two partners who'd chosen each other, again and again and again. And in Sarah's womb, a new life grew, one that would change the future of every wolf alive. The curse was broken. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in 3,000 years, it was work done freely. By choice. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.